Yes, yes, yes. Welcome, all of you courageous cause champions. I'm Lainey Frydrych, and this is episode 3 of the Couch to 5A podcast. Many people have been asking for my backstory, so I wanted to share that with you today. It really starts, I have to take you back to 2011. I watched a documentary called Forks Over Knives, which was about switching over to a plant-based diet. And I had tried a plant-based diet back in the 80s and it didn't go well. But in 2011, I was getting more active into cycling. I was doing more of that. So I wanted to eat what I felt was going to be a more optimal diet for the workouts that I was doing. And that documentary, just everything in it made so much sense to me. And just the power that changing diets had and the success stories that people had with reversing their chronic illness and the added benefits of ending needless suffering of animals, and then the huge impact of eliminating the environmental impact of raising livestock really resonated with me. And I was like, I have to let people know about this. I think if people knew more about this, they would change, they would eat differently. So I had to find a way to help them, help the animals, help our planet. And at that point, I was 25 years into a banking career, and I made the decision that within the next couple of years, I was going to leave banking and start up some type of vegan promoting business. So I made the decision to create a startup fund and start planning. I looked at various business models over the next couple of years. I looked at school food programs. I looked at doing a food truck. I looked at giving cooking classes. And my belief was that if I could make it easy and convenient for people to eat this way, they would do it. And so I honed in on a food delivery model. And luckily for me, I knew a chef at the cafeteria kitchen of the office building that I worked at. So fast forward to the end of 2015, and I gave my notice at the bank that at the end of the year I was going to be leaving and starting a vegan food business. So January 1st, 2016, I became an entrepreneur and I created Easy Vegan Custom Food Service. I started surveying former colleagues of mine at that location, at that office building, about their food choices so that I could craft a menu of options that would be appealing. And we started piloting selling to-go dinners because the cafeteria offered breakfast and lunch, but it didn't offer any dinners. So the owner of the cafeteria service was happy to work with me on it, and they were great about it. But I ended up really struggling with selling vegan food to the people I used to work with. The big problem I had was that there was so much conflicting information about what was quote-unquote healthy food. I had no idea there were so many diets: gluten-free, diabetic, low-carb, high-protein, low-fat, and all these food allergies that people had, which meant people's food beliefs were like life and death to them, as tightly held as religious beliefs, which actually made it feel like I would never have an impact on influencing people's food choices. Why weren't they interested in the benefits to their bodies, to the animals, to the environment? Didn't they know how important this was? I felt so confused. Then something amazing happened. One day the light bulb came on in my head, and I realized that people were making their food choices from different levels of concern, and everything changed for me. I categorized these into 5 levels, which I labeled like the levels of college classes. Let me show you on this next slide. Oops. So 101 is people making a decision on their food choices from the neck up. How does it look? How does it smell? How does it taste? What does it cost? Most people make their food choices based on this. 201 would be some people who consider from the neck down. How does it make my body feel after I eat it? 301 would be a smaller group of people that thinks about, where does it come from? Is it local? Is it from the farmer's market? 401 would be even less people who think about, what is the greater impact? Is this organic? What are farmers' workers' rights? What about the animals' rights? And then 501, I felt, were the very few people who devote their whole life to reducing the greater impact. Instantly, it became crystal clear to me how to talk to people at their level of concern, because I saw that they were only interested in the level they were at. My plan was to start reworking the menu to meet everybody at level 101 by having vegan versions of recognizable food items. So we added burgers, of course, black bean burger, some burritos, which were sweet potato and black bean, and then soups and salads, and that started to work. If people wanted to know the 201 aspects of the benefits to their body from the neck down, I had handouts on nutrition. But then, November, the 2016 presidential election happened. The results stopped me in my tracks. I was in shock for days. How did this happen? What did this mean? A third of the voters of this country picked that person. Another third didn't even show up to vote. The other third of us were left feeling overwhelmed, outraged, and paralyzed. Do you remember how you felt then? All of a sudden, I felt afraid going to places I had gone for years, right here in Royal Oak. My friend and I went out to a bar one night and they were showing a soccer game between Mexico and another country. And the Mexican fans were cheering and people started making comments to them. And I thought, what has changed? What has changed overnight? All of a sudden, this is a hostile world, when before it was perfectly peaceful. During my normal activities, I suddenly felt vulnerable. Coming home in the dark, knowing that I had supporters of that president 2 houses down from me, I felt afraid. Coming home to my own house because it was dark out and I didn't know. How brave might they get? I felt so angry and confused. I wanted to fix this craziness, but I didn't know what to do or how to do it. What I did know was that I didn't want to be angry or afraid for the next 4 years. I knew in my heart that I had to put the vegan business on hold and do something to change this. So the weekend after the election, I started sketching out the 5 levels from food concerns. And this is a really busy chart because I've crossed things off as I moved them to other databases. What I was doing was brainstorming how I could get familiar with the political process and my elected officials. How could I start out small? Who are my elected officials? I went to local meetings of my political party, and they were even divided amongst themselves about what happened and what to do next. I attended some rallies and protests. That's when I realized I wanted to focus my energy on being for something, not against something. How do you take someone like me who would read the League of Women's Voters information the day before election and then go vote and think that I was doing enough and just ignoring the rest of it, the other 364 days of the year? I needed to advance the causes that were important to me, but I didn't have any more time, energy, or money to invest in all this. Back to the levels I went to find answers and directions and to create a roadmap to follow for myself and for other people. So the levels morphed to become protect, nurture, grow, multiply, and champion. That's protect yourself with self-care. Nurture yourself with like-minded people. Grow with the people you know. Multiply with your leadership, and then champion your cause to the public. I tested this framework with things I'd been involved with in the past. For example, in cycling, I protected myself with self-care by buying a bike. That was my self-care for physical health. Then, to nurture myself with like-minded people, I did group rides. I joined a couple of bike clubs. To grow with people I know, I invited friends to bike, and to biking events. To multiply with my leadership, I volunteered as a ride leader. And to champion my cause to the public, I got on the board of a bike club after a couple of years. This was starting to make sense. But I didn't stop there. I then incorporated 8 self-care categories to make sure that self-care always comes first in that first level, the protect. After that, I tested the chart with lots of individuals, mapping out their daily activities. They were amazed at how the levels helped put everything in their life into perspective, changed how they approached everything. I also charted nonprofits to show their volunteer opportunities in this framework. They couldn't believe how this changed the way that they looked at their organization. Building on this success, I decided to make it into a training plan. I call it Couch to 5A. I can now teach many, many people to become courageous cause champions using these 5 levels of advocacy. That's why I'm so excited to share this with you, so you can become a courageous cause champion too, advancing your cause while improving your self-care without spending any more time, energy, or money. Are you ready? Namaste.